Hello, my name is James Lee, Senior Director of Faculty Affairs at San Jose State University. Today, I'm going to show you very briefly how to enter required and then some optional elements of post-tenure review submissions. So as you know, this year we're using eFaculty to convey the submissions for post-tenure review to the reviewers in the department and in the college. So a lot of you haven't used eFaculty before. And so I appreciate that this change to a new platform is going to, in some ways, be a little bit disruptive to the things that you have to do this semester. But I hope to show you that there's only a minimal amount of effort actually required of you in order to establish materials for your post-tenure review. The required elements of a post-tenure review are a review written by yourself about your performance in your assignments in the last 5 years, or if you had any extensions to the timeline, then since your last post-tenure review or your last review for promotion to full professor. So the other required element is the student evaluations of teaching or other types of evaluations for librarians or counselors. And the good news on those items, and you'll see in a few minutes, is that those are already loaded into your eFaculty interface. So you don't have to do any work to get those inserted into your files. And then while not technically required, there's going to be other evidence of your achievement that you'll want to upload. And so I'll show you a couple of areas where you might wind up uploading information. So let's start from the beginning of logging in to eFaculty. Log into eFaculty, you should go to one.sjsu.edu and do a search for eFaculty. You'll see a tile comes up for eFaculty, and that's what you want to select. So you select that tile. If you are already Duo logged into the One SJSU system, then eFaculty will open for you automatically. So you can see that I was already logged into the system, but you may need to go through the One SJSU login prior to seeing this information. So in the eFaculty folder, what you're going to want to pay most attention to is the section called Activities. So what I'm going to do is open Activities. And when you open Activities, what you get is the dossier that is used in retention, tenure, and promotion, plus a couple of other tabs. So skipping the first 5, you see these are all tabs that are used in our reviews of probationary faculty and those who are going up to full professor. We have now opened these tabs to all faculty, including lecturer faculty, for their use in any of the evaluations. So I just want to point out to start with that you can organize your material like you would in a performance review using the tabs that are available here. I also will point out at the front that just because these tabs are here doesn't mean that you have to put information into them. In fact, if you do not enter information into these tabs, let me go, service to the community. I have nothing entered here in my eFaculty. When a reviewer were to look at a submission from me, this header, service to community, would not show up to them. However, this header, student supervision, would show up if there were material from the last 5 years. And it looks like here I have some material from the last 5 years. So let me also point out to you that when you add items in eFaculty, be careful with the kinds of names that you use, because those names for your files or directly entered are translated over to the reviewers. So you might want to pay attention to the naming conventions that you have. So anyway, I'm going to go back now to the activities page, and I'm going to take you to the first tab that you will want to pay attention to. That tab is the fourth one down, and it says Review Periodic Evaluation of Tenured Faculty, Post-Tenure Review. This is where you would upload the narrative that you've written for post-tenure review. In fact, there are some instructions in here which say, please upload the post-tenure review. If you like, you might write your review in the text box below. And then it gives some guidance on what should be included in your review. You'll have, if you're teaching, you'll have a review of your teaching, and you must have SOTs and SOLATes. You can review your professional currency. You may even use a reflective model of review, and you can add any other materials you like to demonstrate your effectiveness. So what we're going to concentrate on here is adding that narrative. To add the narrative that I've already written, I would click Add. You will see here, and this is true for every part of the faculty dossier, you will need to stamp a date onto the item that you're uploading. These date stamps are very important for review because the system will find items within date ranges that are specified to correspond with the period of review. What I'm going to use as my date here is spring 2021, because I'm going to enter a post-tenure review for a spring 2021 submission. The first and probably the most preferred way for faculty is to just upload a file that they've created. So I'm going to click Upload. I'm going to show files, and I'm going to do a search for the post-tenure review. So it looks like I saved this as a text file. So I'm going to upload that text file to here. And so I've date stamped it, and I uploaded a file, and let's go save and go back. Okay, and you see now on the row here, there's a spring 2021 post-tenure review. I'm going to click the little pencil, and it will show that I could go in and I can edit this. I could delete this file and upload all over again, but I don't think I want to do that. What I do want to do is show you that you could have also just directly written your post-tenure review in this text box. I'm going to open the file, and I'll show you that you could just as easily copy that information and paste it into this box. So you have a couple of options as to how you upload the narrative that you're writing for post-tenure review. And it could be direct entry of text, it could be copy and paste, or you could upload a file here for your post-tenure review. I'm going to cancel because I don't want to have two separate post-tenure reviews in there. You can close out the periodic evaluation of tenured faculty tab and go down to classes taught at SJSU. When you open this, you should see some information about policies related to classes taught and the SOTs, the student evaluations of teaching there. And you'll see a list of classes that you've taught. What you want to pay attention to are the classes from the last 5 years, because the review period is the last 5 years. Unless you're one of those persons who's had 6 or maybe 7 years, the review period will be a little bit longer. But you want to locate those classes, and you want to make sure that the SOTs associated with those classes are in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that first class I'm using the little blue pencil to the far right of the row for that class. And I'm going to look under an area called course evaluation. This is an interfolio preset here. So this course evaluation, we might have wanted to call it so late, but this is a preset area. And then of course, there's a little bit of an offset. The number that's to the bottom right of course evaluation is actually a link to the one file. If you had two files in here, the number would be 2. So you can actually upload as many items as you want in this area, but of course, typically people will have only one. There probably would be one syllabus, one course evaluation, one peer evaluation, or any other items that you might upload associated with the class. So for here, I'm going to show you, I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to click on view, and that will show me what's in the eFaculty system for me. And here's a course evaluation sitting there in eFaculty. So now I'm going to go back to eFaculty. If I wanted to delete that SOT, all I would have to do is hit the circle with the X in it. Of course, we know that we don't delete SOTs unless we're following campus policy for those deletions. You might also note that if you were missing a SOT and it wasn't in course eval and institutional research office couldn't provide it to you, then you might upload an explanation as to why there's not a SOT where people would expect to see a SOT. Let me show you also in this area, you can add other documents. All you have to do is click on add. You can choose either a URL or a file. When you choose the file, it will open your Finder for your computer. The type, you're telling it which category you want the file to go under: syllabus, course evaluation, peer evaluation, or other. And then you would upload the file, and that file would get loaded and would be represented as a link under the column that you chose. So you can do this with any of the courses that are listed in eFaculty. Let me be clear that the courses listed are something that you cannot edit. So if you see errors there, we at UPFA can correct errors in your course schedule. I also have another option in case we don't get to it, and that is down here underneath the list of your classes. You can make a note about the semester. So if you see some type of error in your course schedule, you could actually click the little blue pencil and then say the error in my course schedule is, and then you could type it out here. This note would become available to the reviewers when they look at your classes. So at this point, when you've checked your SOTs, you've actually completed the requirement for post-tenure review. Now we're at the point where we'd like to add other documents to our post-tenure review, maybe evidence of our accomplishments, or maybe you had a direct observation of teaching that you want uploaded to show your effectiveness. You can see here that I have uploaded 2 already. The way that I would add a direct observation is I'm going to have to date stamp it. So the semester would be spring 2020. Let's see, the course was Justice Studies 152. And the title was Juvenile Delinquency and Justice. Credit hours were 3. Credit hours is also what we call units. Credit hours is a preset by Interfolio, since most campuses refer to teaching loads as credit hours, but basically that's the units for the course. And then enrollment 25, and then the modality was online. So then I'm going to upload a file. There it is, JS Direct Observation of Teaching Lee. I'm going to open it, and I'm going to say save and go back. So at this point now, you can see that I have listed 3 direct observations of teaching. There are other places you might want to add information. For example, you might want to put a CV in here. You can see that I have a CV that I've uploaded. You might add prior evaluations and reviews. To do that, you would just click on add. You would put a date range for that review. You might put a title for it and then upload the file. And when you do that, the file will appear in a row like the one that you see here. You might put your appointment letter in here. If you are looking for information about yourself that should have or could have been saved in a personnel file, then please feel free to contact us at eFaculty@sjsu.edu to send you your path or to send you select items out of your path. We can meet those requests. We send them to you, and then you could parse out from the PDF the items that you want to put into your eFaculty system. Unfortunately, the classes and the SOTs are the only things that we've actually uploaded to eFaculty on your behalf. Anything else you would have to upload yourself. And so that's where some of the challenge will come in when setting things up for post-tenure review. The last thing I want to show you is if you needed to or wanted to, you can upload everything for this review except for the SOTs because they are already under classes taught at SJSU. You could upload all of the files here under post-tenure review. So you wouldn't need to go to the other tabs. You could just keep adding files in order right here. So let's say I'm doing that. If I wanted to upload a whole bunch of materials that I have in a file from the last 5 years, I might select, let's see, I believe fall 2014 was the last time I submitted a dossier. And so I might date the file coming up from that with that date. The problem is I'm going to have to make sure that I date stamp with something that's within my period of review. So one thing I could do is, maybe cheat the system and just date stamp everything with spring 2021. That would work to get everything included in the dossier. And then you would go here and you would upload the file, the next thing you wanted in there, and you might have this whole big file that you'd like to upload. And you could just keep doing that over and over, repeatedly adding another file to the system. And after you've entered material, you can look at the material you've entered in one place under Vitas and Biosketches. What you would do is click Vitas and Biosketches. You'd go down to post-tenure review, and you'd click on the little blue eyeball on the far right. You then want to enter the dates that correspond with your review period. And for me, that was, like I said, fall 2014 was the last time I entered a dossier. And spring 2021 is the current semester. So with that, I'm going to say refresh Vita. And if I scroll down, I will see everything except for the attachments that I uploaded that are in my packet for post-tenure review corresponding with the period of review. You can see that I have direct observations here. I have some information that I entered for student supervision. I have a publication or two in there. I have grants. Everything that I've entered during that period of review shows up here on this Vita. The attachments will unfortunately not show up directly for you. So you would have to click on the blue to find the attachments associated with your Vita. And so here it is. I can do direct observations. I could look at that directly. One little trick for viewing the materials that you're submitting is to wait for UPFA to create the post-tenure review packet for you. Before a case is created for you, you can use the Vita and BioSketch function, and you can even download that for yourself. In fact, you could even share it out to other people if you wanted to do so. But that would be export, share, and then you can choose the way in which you are going to share the Vita that you just generated. Now, remember to keep the dates correct when you create a Vita in BioSketch. So I'm going to step aside for a moment. I'm going to have one of my colleagues create a post-tenure review case for me. And then I'm going to show you what that post-tenure review case would look like from the reviewer's perspective. So at this point, I have uploaded all of the material that I need for my post-tenure review. I've uploaded the narrative to the activities tab called Review Periodic Evaluation of Tenured Faculty Post-Tenure Review. I've checked that my standardized student evaluations, or SOTs, are under the classes in classes taught at SJSU. And I've even gone through and added other evidence of performance, such as the direct observation of teaching. And there are other places where I could upload and have uploaded information. I just had to choose the tab that was most appropriate to the work that I was doing. And I just added files there, starting with clicking the add button that appeared under the tab. So now we're ready, and I asked one of our staff to create a case for me for post-tenure review. And so I'm going to go to that and show you what would happen once UPFA has created a case for you. See that I got an email, case available. So I'm viewing the case by clicking on this link. Let me forewarn you that if you aren't logged into the one.sjsu.edu system, you should go ahead and log into that prior to, and log into eFaculty prior to clicking on view case. So since I have been logged in, I'm being taken to this area called Your Packets, and it shows you that I have a post-tenure review waiting for me to submit. So let me just explain that here is the area where you can finally say to your department, hey, I'm ready for review, and you would click submit to let them know that. But if you've gone through and you're still preparing and you've changed a few things in your packet, you will want to use the regenerate button here prior to submitting things. The regenerate just basically says, hey, go back in and take another snapshot of the items that I have in there to make them available in this review. I also want you to notice I'm checking here because I want to make sure that UPFA got my period of review correct. The period of review is since tenure or the last time you had a periodic evaluation or a post-tenure review. So my promotion to full professor dossier was submitted in fall 2014, and I haven't been reviewed since then. So I want to make sure that fall 2014 to the current semester is my post-tenure review period. So that looks correct. Let me go in and look to see what they see. I'm going to go to preview packet. And what I should see is a Vita, as Interfolio calls it, that displays all of the things that I have direct entered into my eFaculty Faculty 180 file. So you see all these classes. You can see that there are entries for some direct observations of teaching, There's a student supervision entry. There are some publications. There's a grant, a couple grants listed there. And those are the items that were date stamped for this period of review. What I want to also show you is that the reviewers will see the attachments to this information, those things that you uploaded to eFaculty, over here in the left column under attachments from post-tenure review. So the first of those attachments is going to be that narrative that I uploaded, review periodic evaluation of tenured faculty. And they will see it in this PDF form. Under curriculum vitae, I have what looks like, maybe I just uploaded some file and put it there for display purposes. Under classes taught at SJSU, you'll see that I have some SOTs entered there, and this is the way they will see your SOT files. Oh, that was the syllabus. This is the SOT. So syllabi, SOTs, anything that you uploaded under classes taught at SJSU. Under direct observations, you'll see that there's an observation of a class of mine. And then you can see under research, there's this journal article that had been uploaded there. And there's information under grads. Notice also that these headers these dossier headers only appear if there's an item associated with them. So if you don't enter information into an area, don't worry that area isn't going to show up over here. So with that, I'm pretty pleased with the packet that I'm creating. And so I'm going to go ahead and say regenerate, making sure it got everything that I entered. And then I'm going to say submit. And what submit does is say to UPFA, I'm finished, and you can now go ahead and send my dossier through for review for post-tenure review. And once you do that, it's in the system. And now I'm going to take my administrator's privilege. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look at the case from the perspective of the reviewer. And then I'm going to read the case, and you'll see that what the reviewer will see is what I was showing you earlier. And with the addition of some areas that we have, you'll see there's a department level. When they write the evaluations of your file, they're going to enter those and they'll show up under here. And then the next level of review, the dean will see your items plus the department's items. And then when the dean is finished and you've had your chance to have an optional response, everything will come to university personnel so that we can place materials in your personnel action file. And that pretty much wraps up the way that this will proceed. Thank you again for using eFaculty for the post-tenure review. Thank you for being the first group of our tenured faculty to be converted to the system. And I really do hope that your experience is a pleasant one. If you have any questions or if you encounter any problems, we have a great staff at University Personnel Faculty Affairs, and you can contact us using the email address efaculty@sjsu.edu, and the staff will figure out a way to solve your problems for you. So please work with us as we try to assist you in going fully electronic for the post-tenure review. Have a great spring semester as well. See you.